Hey, what's up? Welcome to another edition of Hansen's Hints here at fantasypoints.com. I am John Hansen recording this. I am a little delayed, by the way, though, because I did go to the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama last week. So that pretty much whacked out the whole week. I left Friday, Monday, and returned late Thursday. But I also had a layer of my flesh burned off and peeled at the Senior Bowl because I'm an idiot. I didn't bring any sunblock or anything like that. And the last 2 years, it wasn't that sunny actually, but not this week. So this dumb Yankee from New Jersey went down to Mobile, Alabama, and sat in bleachers for about, I don't know, 13 hours watching the best seniors in the country practice and frying my flesh, basically. So that's all done. That's all taken care of. This is all new flesh here. Check it out. First reveal, if you will. But yeah, all good to go. But I did have a little sunburn poisoning. It wasn't good. So I needed some time to recover. And I also need time to recover every year from the season that was, because it's pretty chaotic and it's pretty crazy. And it's sometimes difficult to go back and look at lessons learned. But we're going to do it right here. Let's get into it. Running back is always a pretty tough position for me because of for natural reasons and obvious reasons. You've got injuries, more timeshares, a lot of things can go wrong. Maybe not as many things that can go wrong for a quarterback, but it's a little hit or miss. You're never going to get it all right. But here's how I start. Basically, I start looking at my players to target. My draft plan article talks about like my process, my approach, like, when am I taking what positions and things like that. But it also includes the actual players I like. And I basically narrowed down, I take like the top 300, even though I mostly work off the top 250, let's say. But I do the top 300 because I do take players who are going off the board sometimes at like 260, 270. It happens, but it's mainly the top 200, 250. But I narrowed down the top 300 to 70. That's just a number that just kind of came. I mean, I didn't really come up with that. It just seemed like every year I was taking 300 players and I was whittling it down to 70. And we were kind of calling it the Hansen 70. Those are the players that are, quote, on my list and I'm targeting. And I like either, I think they're a great value or whatever. There's a lot of reasons for me to like a player. So that's usually where I start to see, take stock of the year that was. I mean, not bad. I don't list the first round guys because they're so obvious. I actually was not that into Bijan Robinson this year, and I had a bad feeling about it. We ranked him right at the market. The feeling came through, and it came true. But by the way, make sure if you haven't seen the Bijan Robinson video that is on our YouTube channel, I rewrote the lyrics. And my son Ben did the production and the drumming and the bass. And our guy, the BC guys, Bobby from ACI fame, if you listen to the Sirius XM radio show, the author of Screw You Guru, Song of the Summer, he wrote that, sung it and played the guitar. It came out pretty well, and our guy Trey Chamberlain did a great job with it. But anyways, Bijan, we're not going to even get into him. Would he have been on my list? I mean, it's hard to say. Probably not, because I was very much into getting wide receivers. I was very judicious. But, normally I'm about youth, all about it, and versatility. And I certainly think Bijan's very good and wasn't down on him per se. I just wasn't like jumping out to me. So the top 5 guys that I listed as my targets, I rank them. Here are the 1 to 70, basically. So then I took the list from the summer and I arranged them, pulled out all the non-running backs. And here's the top 5. It's pretty good. Not great, pretty good. Rachaad White was my number 1 running back. That was probably one of the best ROIs in fantasy football this year. James Cook was number 2. Pretty good. Najee Harris, not so great. That was number 3, although he did come on at the end. David Montgomery was number 4. I actually got his projection exactly right. I think I got the backfield exactly right too. By the way, in terms of projected fantasy points, I was off by like 12 total points for both guys for the whole year. And then the fifth guy was Brees Hall. I was also very into Brian Robinson. And then very late, I found myself in the draft plan taking Tajay Spears, my guy. I love Tajay Spears. If you've been watching videos from me the last 365 days, you probably know that because I started the man crush on Spears at last year's Senior Bowl. And Chase Brown, who, boy, it took him almost 4 full months. And there's another Senior Bowl guy that I really liked. And I interviewed both guys too at the combine because I really liked him and I liked the dude. So that's not bad. Now, we also had J.K. Dobbins. What are you going to do? I also had a bunch of, several middling calls on guys that, I wouldn't call it a win. I wouldn't call it a loss. Khalil Herbert in like the 10th round, 9th round. Kenny Gainwell. I didn't really like him. Only knew that the Eagles liked him. Javonte Williams. I've always been a Javonte guy, but I think if you listen to me all summer and you read the article, like I wasn't pounding the table for Javonte Williams. I actually was a little worried about it. Like it seemed a little too early to come back, but he was on my list. So I guess, I don't know. Is that an L? I don't even know. It's not a dub. I don't know if it's an L though. I actually had AJ Dillon on there. I just had a feeling that he would get a number of starts, which he did. Contract year. I thought he looked a little bit better in the summer, but man, he's still AJ Dillon. Wasn't great. I also had Samaje Perine for some reason I was into. Like 125 overall, 130. Jerick McKinnon. Now, there were 2 bad calls that stood out. And here's where we start with the lessons learned at running back. Number 1, Dameon Pierce. Once again, if you listen to the SiriusXM radio show or watch these videos or read all my stuff, I was absolutely not banging the table on Dameon Pierce. In fact, our guy, Brett Whitefield, was, kind of sounding the alarm about the shift in blocking scheme, basically. It was a new staff. Now, and he ended up being 100% correct, but he wasn't right away. So I think I would have known if Devin Singletary was going to open the season as the guy. That was not the case, but it eventually was because of this phenomenon here. Dameon Pierce. And the other thing that was confusing about it, by the way, is I did not think that Singletary was a great fit, and he's not. But obviously a little bit better than Dameon Pierce. Devin Singletary, the fantasy cockroach, he refuses to go away. He's solid as hell. I interviewed him at the combine, boring as hell, but hey, in his case, that's a redeeming quality because he's just a lunch pail guy. But he was the pick, and it wasn't Dameon Pierce. The other guy, and again, is another guy that I didn't pump up, but I had him pumped up enough to have him on my list. And a lot of these it's about the buying opportunity. It's about the upside. Cam Akers. Well, lesson learned there is if you suspect or even know that the head coach probably hates a running back, presumed starter, then don't take that running back. Even if the coach, as Sean McVay did, kind of pumps him up all year. Now, I thought that contract year, he did improve measurably down the stretch. We had all the data points, and no one except for Graham Barfield at fantasypoints.com that I know of was into Kyren Williams. And I can say that with confidence because I look at ADP and I call it polling data. So, our ADP I think is pretty good. And I would say like minimum, 500,000 people were polled to come up with the data, the number, the average draft position. Let's just say 500,000 people. I mean, there's 30, 40 million people playing fantasy football. It could be millions, but let's just say 500,000 people. That's still a huge sample. Well, when sampled, none of them, or on average as a group, they were not taking Kyren Williams in the top 200. His ADP was 209. So there's another lesson learned in terms of Kyren Williams. He was young and he is versatile, good receiver, but he did not look nearly as good last year. So I wasn't buying it. Graham Barfield was. So I did have Cam Akers on the list. So that is a lesson learned. So again, if you suspect a coach hates a guy, yeah, probably not take that guy. And maybe even correspondingly look at somebody else on the team, like the aforementioned Kyron Williams, who I will be out on this year, by the way. I know that seems like a hot take, but here's the problem with that real quick. So you mean to tell me that when polled, let's call it 500,000 fantasy football managers in early September, on average, we're not taking Kyron Williams in the top 200, but now we're taking him at 12? Okay. My rule is when a running back comes out of nowhere and kicks ass, and then the next year gets rewarded ADP wise, gets a lot of love, head for the hills. It usually works. I mean, the last good example, it wasn't a great example, but it absolutely applied. Myles Gaskin, remember that? When Myles Gaskin was a thing for the Dolphins and playing all the snaps and catching like 10 balls, and then the next year it was like a 5th-round pick. I was like, no. And that did not work out. So that is my thinking with Kyron Williams. Now, I will say, I sat and watched him like midseason. Like, what did I miss with this guy? Very good patience and vision, stop start ability, nothing sexy, kind of like some invisible scouting, if you, it's what I call it, like if you have good vision and patience to the hole and you're really in unison with your blockers, you can look a little bit better maybe even than you are. It's kind of like maybe a quarterback. Maybe it's not like this, but I'll say it anyway. A quarterback who gets the ball out quickly can make an O-line look better. You might not be overly talented, or let's say it this way. It's like a quarterback who doesn't have a strong arm, but throws with great touch, timing, anticipation, and accuracy. So like Joe Montana, like dude won 4 Super Bowls. I think he had 12, 14 touchdowns, 0 picks. Didn't have a cannon, but he had everything else was great. So that's kind of what I'm talking about with Kyron Williams. So, he'll probably be good while he's out there, but I'm skeptical. Otherwise, here, as I look back at the year that was at running back, I think there were some shaky running back picks out there that I wasn't particularly interested in. Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, Derrick Henry, Alexander Madison, and Miles Sanders. None of them were on my list. Now, we did rank Pollard high. That was a tougher call, but it didn't really compute to me. It's like, guys, you're going to be a run heavy team, Schottenheimer and Mike McCarthy, but you're kind of building the team to be 11 personnel and throw a lot. You signed a Brandon Cook. So, it was also a changing of the offensive coordinator, of course, and the blocking scheme. He wasn't a good fit for the scheme. So it's a little bit similar to Dameon Pierce. I thought the year before Kellen Moore did a really good job of getting him in space and on the edge. Not the case. So it was bad. Josh Jacobs I would have been into had it not been for the holdout based on he was going like 3rd round. I was kind of into that very early in the preseason. But once I saw the holdout come to pass and got some more intel, I was like, no. My take was Josh McDaniels was going to be the first coach fired, and they're going to be a train wreck, and they were. I was also not into Devontae Adams about this, which probably wasn't the greatest call. Ramondre, I just had a weird vibe on, and he hung in there a little bit, but I think that ended up being right there. I thought that Zeke Elliott was going to be a threat, and I just did not like how the first year where he truly got a pretty heavy workload last year in 2022 kind of fell apart. I know that because I had him. So I think I got that one right. Derrick Henry, you could argue I was wrong often. Maybe wrong. I mean, he did fade at the end there, and he was very volatile. I guess I was maybe wrong on that one. But I am a little bit of a Derrick Henry hater just because of, at this point, it's volume, injuries. He definitely lost a little juice. And by the way, that's another lesson when we look around. I'm looking at the cheat sheets and the ADP. I mean, who are the guys who really let us down? Austin Eckler, 28 years old. Henry. Mixon was pretty good. there's got to be one or two other older backs in him. James Conner was good again, but he also missed time. So here's a little bit of the problem. It's always like a mixed bag. Now, Alvin Kamara, there's one I got wrong. But I think if you look at the league leaders and the guys that you wanted to take, it was once again the young guys for the most part. Yeah, Mixon was pretty good, and Connor Swift, DeAndre Swift. It was I ranked him at the market. I actually said, look, it's going to work. He's going to be good. He was, but it was a little annoying. Like we knew it was coming in a contract year. And speaking of contract years, I do regret not ranking Swift a little higher. And same with Pacheco, by the way. You know, lesson learned there when you don't have a lot of confidence in the other running backs in the backfield in the mix. And if you suspect the coaches don't, as KC coaches certainly didn't, you should probably take that guy because he's going to be leaned on quite heavily, as Isaiah Pacheco certainly was. Moving on here to other lessons as I just kind of go through the players that I was targeting and was not targeting. Here are some other guys I got wrong, in addition to Kyron Williams. Well, two. One old and one smaller with an unsettled role. Of course, I'm talking about the Miami Dolphin running backs and Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. Again, the markets, they were more with me than not. Mostert was only RB 45 off the board, so he was not getting love. I actually had him at RB 43, for God's sakes. It's technically over the markets. And then he went off the board right before Achane. And, you know, I'm still kind of processing Achane. I mean, on one hand, you could argue, hey, good versatility. He's like the Tyreek Hill running backs. He only needs 7 touches a game, 8 touches a game to get it done. On the other hand, I felt like they overexposed him and he had multiple injuries. So, I mean, a little bit of a tougher call there. I don't have anything riveting in terms of the lesson learned, but the two guys actually who bothered me the most in terms of making a mistake were mixed bag guys for sure. But hey, you look at the season ending leaders, they were up there. And I am talking about Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker. Now, the reason I'm a little bothered by this is normally I am a major ageist. My rule is always the running back needs to be young, durable, and versatile, or at least generally durable. And these guys, you know about Walker being durable because he's had multiple injuries. Certainly versatile. Etienne has been healthy now. He had the serious injury in college. He's been somewhat durable. But, you know, they both finished high, you know. But Etienne, and by the way, in one of the least revealing final rankings ever, was the RB3. I mean, did it really feel like he was the RB3? No, it did not. From week 10 on, in more than half his games, he was just the RB22 in points per game, which would have been lower than where I had him. He did get more receiving work. You know, we lamented the fact that like the Duke can't get more than 3 catches in a game from Doug Peterson in 2022. Well, Doug must have heard that because week 1, boy, they got him the ball. He had 5. But then he had, let's see, he did it 0 times in 2022, and then he did it 8 times last year. So that helped. He got a lot of his production from touchdowns, which are a little fluky. I thought that was ironic too, because that was one of my big gripes. I thought he was poor in short yardage. But to my point, his yards per carry average actually plummeted from 5.1 in 2022 to 3.9 in 2023. But I still got it wrong. At the end of the day, I still got it wrong, and I probably should have given a little bit more love. Not wrong, egregiously wrong, but definitely didn't get it right because he wasn't on my list of targets, and we ranked him below his ADP, and the dude was the RB3. As for Walker, I mean, certainly there were more injury concerns in the summer. That was a bad sign. Zach Charbonnet was a second-round pick, very capable of pushing him for his job. You know, Walker again was hardly brilliant, but he was by the way, he was only the RB 2022 or 22. So again, I was kind of right to be down on him, but I'm going to probably take an L on this. because his ADP was running back 15. And again, he was only RB 22. But I mean, again, he was up there. You know, that he was solid, and he had impactful moments. Why? Because he's young, he's very talented. Dude's ripping off big plays left and right. So yeah, I probably regret that. I mentioned Miles Sanders. Here's another one, and it's annoying. If more than anything else, it's annoying. So what did we learn from Miles Sanders this year? Number one, we learned two things. Number one, bet on running backs with spotty track records in the final year of the rookie deal. Expiring rookie contract, and you kind of stink, but we know you can do it, like Miles Sanders. Okay. Well, dude went from 0 touchdowns, what was it, in 2021? What did he get in 2022? It was like 12. I mean, give me a break. So, of course, the Panthers, maybe we should also, if the Panthers do something, then do the opposite. Like, oh, they signed Miles Sanders. Okay, I'm going to fade Miles Sanders. I'm going to not sign Miles Sanders. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The second lesson we learned, because boy, he taught us two these last 2 years. Number one, you bet on these spotty guys in the final year of the rookie deal. Number two, the next year, if they do get paid like Sanders did, then forget it. No. So thank you for the tips, Miles Sanders. Moving on here. I mean, that's about it, honestly. I mean, not getting a ton of like real strong trends, if you will. Oh, actually, no, I think I buried the lead. I did miss the probably the most important one. And believe it, I'm still figuring this out. But here's where I'm at. You know, there are too many teams now, and running games especially. They're just slow off the mark for a variety of reasons. New coach, new play caller, offensive line doesn't have a lot of continuity. They need to gel. A lot of different reasons. But I mean, I really need to find a way to isolate those who might open up a little slow and advise to fade them and then trade for them a month into the season. Like, for example, can you imagine what the ROI could have been on Rashad White at like week 5? Because it started out poorly. I was scared. I was worried. I was like, damn, this is not good. Dude ended up RB4 on the season and was the second best value at the position out of everyone next to Raheem Mostert. James Cook. This isn't a big discrepancy, but he was RB 18 after 4 games. That was Rashad, by the way, was RB 24 after 4 weeks. And then he was RB 4 for the season. James Cook was RB 18 after 4 weeks, and then he was RB 11. This is a really good example. Jahmyr Gibbs. He was RB 30 after 4 weeks. And we all know everyone was complaining. Good guy to trade for. Dude ended up the RB 10. So, and I did like David Montgomery more than Gibbs this year based on cost. And that was a good call, but I wasn't down on Gibbs. I mean, he was damn good too. And then the other one was Najee. I did kind of like Najee, unfortunately, but I thought, look, third round guy, like if you go wide receiver, that's not bad. I know Jalen Warren's in the mix. I didn't think Jalen Warren was going to take over. He didn't. He won't. But Najee through the first 4 weeks was RB 47. I was like, uh-oh. But then I saw a couple of signs of life, and I noticed the schedule. I actually wrote him up several weeks in a row as a guy to trade for. And it was hard to trust him, I will admit, because you didn't get the checkdowns and the targets. Very touchdown dependent, but he did score a lot, and he looked good, actually. He ended up RB 23, which is pretty darn solid. So I don't have any definitive answers now, but trust me, I'm going to be on the lookout for these slow starts because it's more prevalent now. It used to be that I could suck it up and accept, okay, the guy got off to a slow start, but I'm not projecting players for September only leagues. I used to joke. I mean, I'm looking at the whole season. So, you got to stay patient. Well, sometimes we can't. And because, if it's going to go 5-6 weeks, Well, now you're encroaching on like half the regular season. So I do think we need to be a little bit more, and this really kind of applies to all positions, but especially the running back position. So, for example, if we have a new system, new blocking schemes, if we have a revamped O line, if we have a new running back in a backfield with a revamped O line, those type of things. If we have particularly tough matchups, which could be very possible, then I'm probably going to head for the hills. But here's the thing: Jahmyr Gibbs would be a great example. I did not have Jahmyr Gibbs on my list. I had David Montgomery on my list. And I did a video here on our feed. Like, I was like, no, I'm going boring with this one. I'm going Montgomery, which again wasn't a bad call. What I should have done is say, look, Jahmyr Gibbs is really good, but right now he's a little overpriced. So let someone else draft him. And, into the season, they'll probably start to figure it out, which they did, and then trade for him. Basically, that's the play. Otherwise, as I look through and check out like our old cheat sheet. Oh, here's another lesson I forgot to mention. One of the other things I got right. It's a fine line sometimes between, do you lean on the volume or do you lean on the fact that maybe this guy's a jag? Now, I know a lot of people thought that Rachaad White was a jag. I would not go that far, certainly. I never said he was a stud. You can't call him a jag when he's that good of a receiver. I mean, the guy's an absolutely excellent receiver, and he can make you miss in the open field. There's no doubt about it. He's more than a jag. I mean, I'm not saying he's Todd Gurley or like a stallion, but damn good. But Alexander Madison, he's a jag, and a lot of people were in on him, not me. So I've learned my lesson in the past. Volume's great, but let's not lean on it. You got to have some skills. In Rachaad White's case, it was his receiving chops. Now, maybe Isaiah Pacheco's case, let's say. Number one, weird runner. Obviously, we all know, very violent and all that. I actually know someone from South Jersey, where he's from, who told me he's been trying to get him to change his running style since he was 10 years old. It ain't happening. But he's versatile, number one. So we should have taken that into account a little bit. So that's not a jag if you're pretty versatile. But the other thing is, and maybe it doesn't come into play a lot, he's like a 4.40 guy. So you get him on the perimeter, or if he bursts through, he could make some house calls. He hasn't done a lot, but there were some moments where I'm picturing it in my mind now. Like, he got the sideline there on the left side and outran people. So he's not a jag. But Alexander Madison, I was calling him Alexander Jagison. No offense. I know people went after him on social media. I felt bad about that, but not very good. And maybe that's why they traded for Cam Akers. So that was another lesson there. So yeah, I love Tajay Spears. Didn't really work out. Roshan Johnson, like, there's a lesson. If you think it's going to be a three-headed disaster, probably will be. I couldn't help it but to give Roshan some love. And he had some moments, but, that's kind of the story with a lot of the scouting. It's like, yeah, I liked him. I had him a lot higher than the marketplace. It didn't really work out, but he showed that he was good, and a lot of people didn't know he was good. So, that's not bad. Yeah, I think that's about it. Couldn't foresee that Nick Chubb injury. I was very high on Nick Chubb. The running back position is always going to be a challenge. I do have some interesting thoughts on 2024. Number one, real quick, when I looked at the elite, the top 12, top 15, I think it's like, in terms of running backs, it's Bijan, it's Breece Hall, and Jahmyr Gibbs. I might be inclined this year, believe it or not, to rank those three like in my top 5 overall. Make it a point to get them, because the talent in terms of youth, versatility, all that is going to fall off a cliff. And if you are picking at the top of round 1, by the way, you're not going to get a crack at them or anything really comparable. I don't know. Even in round 2, maybe James Cook. But so there's that here. But another weird year at the running back position. To recap, we're going to pay a little bit more attention to the slow start guys. We're going to be wary of guys who might get off to a slow start. We're also going to be cognizant of those types that we isolate that in that regard. Well, which ones do we actually like as players and we like the situation? Maybe they are good ones. We're going to advise maybe, don't draft them, hold off a little bit, but be ready to trade for them. We're going to continue to focus on youth. Like once again, I think that was, a pretty good theme. We're going to be not well. We could have some examples actually. We get some running backs getting paid this year. We're going to be a little wary of that too, especially if it's after that rookie deal, like they got paid like Miles Sanders. But I'm going to look now. I'm calling it up. Just the final finishers here for some final thoughts. So, well, here you go. I mean, McCaffrey, that's his own thing. Breece Hall was number 2. I love Breece Hall. ETN was 3. Young, durable, versatile. Rachaad White was 4. Young, durable, versatile. Raheem Mostert, not young, pretty versatile, unique situation. Joe Mixon got it done. He hung in there. Bijan was, hey, I think we had him at RB7. He was RB8 right there, but didn't really work out that well. There's Gibbs and Cook. You've got, you got mixture here. Kamara. Alvin Kamara is a freak. Anybody else with his mileage and all this situation probably wouldn't have done all that well, but he also was weird. It wasn't great to watch, was it? So yeah, and then it's just a mixture of the younger guys and some surprising veterans like who hung in there, like James Conner and all that. So nothing absolutely riveting. But that is what I have here at the running back position. I'll do another video here at wide receiver and tight end and account for all the lessons here and put up the article at fantasypoints.com. So I will wrap it here. Thanks for tuning in here. Nice 32 minutes of content here on the running backs. We'll catch you next time at fantasypoints.com.